Round the World Lit Audio. The Stranger by Albert Camus. Part 1. Chapter 5. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week, free to listen. Chapter recap. In Chapter 4, Meursault went to Raymond's beach bungalow with Marie and Masson. Raymond was cut in a fight with two Arab men on the beach. Meursault took Raymond's gun. He went back to the beach alone, not sure why, and found the two Arabs sheltering in the shade of some rocks. The sun was very strong. The light from the Arab's knife blade crossed his eyes. He fired once, then for more times. Then there was only the sound of the waves. Part 1. Chapter 5. The final chapter of Part 1. Chapter 5. He was arrested that evening. The process was unremarkable in its mechanics. The police came. He was taken to the station. He answered questions with the same quality of attention he brought to everything, precise, honest, without elaboration. He said what had happened. He said it without drama because there was no drama in him, only the events, described as they had occurred. He was put in a cell. The cell was small. It had a bed and a window and a smell of stone. That was the smell of enclosure, the specific quality of air that has been enclosed for a long time, and carries the history of everyone who has been enclosed within it. Meursault lay on the bed and looked at the ceiling, and thought about various things without particular distress. He thought about Marie. He thought about the beach. He thought about the sun. In the days that followed he was questioned further. A magistrate interviewed him, a man of middle age, earnest, with the particular manner of someone who takes his responsibilities seriously, and believes that taking them seriously is the same as discharging them well. The magistrate asked about the crime. He asked about Meursault's motivations, what had led him to fire, why he had fired for additional times after the first shot, what he had felt in the moment. Meursault answered as honestly as he could. He said he had not intended to kill the Arab. He said the sun had been very strong. He said the light from the blade had gotten in his eyes. He said the gun had fired. The magistrate listened to this with increasing dissatisfaction. He was looking for something, a remorse, a motive, a narrative of the event that placed it within a moral framework he could work with. Meursault gave him the events, cleanly, without the framework. The magistrate put a crucifix on the desk between them. He said, "Do you believe in God?" Meursault said, "No." The magistrate's dissatisfaction deepened. He said, "Have you ever felt any regret, any remorse for what you did?" Meursault thought about this carefully. He said, "I feel some annoyance at what has happened to my life. But remorse, I am not sure I know what that means in the way you mean it." The magistrate looked at him for a long moment. He said, "I have never seen a soul as hardened as yours." Meursault did not think his soul was hardened. He thought he was being honest, which was different. But he understood that the magistrate did not find honesty, in this particular form, useful. He was assigned a lawyer. The lawyer was a competent man, who asked competent questions and nodded at appropriate moments, and projected the particular calm of a professional, who has handled many cases and found them all, ultimately, manageable. He asked Meursault about his character, whether there were people who could speak well of him, whether he was known as a decent person, whether his colleagues and neighbors found him agreeable. Meursault answered these questions as he answered all questions, honestly. He said, "I think people find me ordinary enough. I do my job. I do not cause trouble. I am not particularly liked or disliked by anyone I can think of." The lawyer said, "And your mother, your feelings for your mother, your grief at her death, that is something we can use. Juries respond to filial feeling. Can you say that you loved your mother?" Meursault thought about this. He said, "I suppose so, in the way one loves one's mother. I did not think about it much." The lawyer looked at him. He said, "You need to say that you loved her, that her death affected you deeply, that you were not yourself at the funeral." Meursault said, "But I was myself at the funeral. I am always myself." The lawyer said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "This is going to be more difficult than I thought." Prison life organized itself around him, with the particular efficiency of institutional time, meals at fixed hours, exercise in the yard, the slow passage of days, that are identical to each other except in small details. Meursault adjusted to it with the same equanimity he had brought to every other environment he had ever been in. He slept when he was tired. He ate when food came. He looked out the window at the changing quality of light over the exercise yard and found it sufficient occupation. He missed Marie, not dramatically, not with the anguish that the word missing usually implies. He thought about her with the specific quality of attention he had brought to her when she was present, her directness, her warmth, the way she moved in the water. He thought about her and found that thinking about her was pleasant, and that not being able to see her was unpleasant, and these two things together constituted what he felt about the situation. She came to visit him once, early in his imprisonment. She sat across from him, at the visitors' table with the other prisoners, and their visitors around them, the noise and the heat and the particular compressed intimacy of a visiting room in a prison, and she looked at him with eyes that were doing something complicated, love and confusion and the specific distress of a person who cares about someone they cannot help. She said, "Are you all right?" He said, "Yes." She said, "I will come again." He said, "All right." She came again twice after that. Then she did not come. He did not know why. He assumed she had decided to stop coming, which was a reasonable decision, and he held no grievance against her for it. He thought about her less frequently as the months passed, not because he had forgotten her, he had not forgotten her, but because the prison had its own rhythms, and its own demands on attention, and he was giving his attention to those. He thought about freedom. He thought about it, the way you think about something you did not fully appreciate when you had it, not with nostalgia exactly, but with the precise recognition of what had been lost, the specific quality of an afternoon, the ability to walk in a direction because you wanted to, not because the yard ended there. The sea, particularly. He thought about the sea more than anything else. He read when books were available. He slept. He observed the other prisoners, their habits, their conversations, the particular ways in which people organize themselves when the ordinary organizing structures of life are removed. The examining magistrate called him Monsieur Antichrist. He said this with a slightly uneasy laugh that suggested he was not entirely comfortable with his own joke. Meursault did not take offense. He understood that the magistrate needed a category for him, and had settled on this one, and that the category was wrong, but that explaining why it was wrong would not be useful. He was in prison for 11 months before the trial. 11 months in which he adjusted, adapted, found the particular equilibrium available to a person in his circumstances, not comfort, not happiness, but a state that was livable. He had heard his mother say once that you can get used to anything. He had not believed it then. He believed it now. He was ready for the trial. He did not think it would go well. He was not naive about this. He had a lawyer who was worried, and a magistrate who called him Monsieur Antichrist, and a crime that he had committed in front of the sun on a beach where there were witnesses. He was not expecting acquittal, but he was ready. He was himself. He had been himself throughout, at the funeral, at the beach, in the interrogation room, in the cell. He had not performed grief he did not feel, or remorse he could not locate, or religiosity he had never had. He had been, with complete consistency, exactly what he was. He was about to discover what the world thought of exactly what he was. Chapter Transition. You have reached the end of Part 1, Chapter 5 of The Stranger, by Albert Camus. This is the end of Part 1. The trial begins in Part 2. And what Meursault discovers in the courtroom is something Camus has been building toward since the first page. He is not on trial for killing an Arab. He is on trial for not weeping at his mother's funeral, for going to the cinema the next day, for not knowing how old she was, for being, in the court's view, a monster, not because of what he did on the beach, but because of what he is every day. Part 2 begins next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new chapter arrives every week.